Welcome back to Combust Astrology. My name's Liv. I'm going to be covering the December forecast, kind of the transits that I'm really looking at. So, the first one, obviously, as you are here, is the Moon and Saturn. Moon and Saturn. Sun and Moon, right? The new moon in Sagittarius. Cover that in a different video, but just a quick gist on it. It's really a good time to set the manifestation that you want. You know, Mercury is still retrograded here, so it's not necessarily actually going out and taking the step, but writing it down, recluding into that moment of, hey, I want XYZ for the future. Let's be big and bold about it, but let's plan, especially going into Capricorn season later on. So, what do we have next? Well, 6 days or 5 days from now, we have the Mars retrograding in Leo. I'll talk about that on TikTok if you'd kind of like to see that, but I'll cover it as well here. The Mars retrograding in Leo is going to be more so about being small. There's a lot of ways to interpret this, really. I would say to be small. If you have Leo placements, this is a little bit of a prep for the bigger ordeal of what I've been spamming and saying 24/7 because I really do love you, Leo people. I really do. You guys are good people. I just don't want to see you get beheaded. Like, figuratively, obviously, you're not going to die. I'm not saying anything like that, but I don't want to see you have to suffer for another 20 years when you can just really learn it now. Just quite literally learn it now. Relax, chill, allow yourself to disassociate from the public eye and just be a background, right? And this transit of Mars and Leo kind of moving back is, why I draw Sag, is really like a good way of you kind of getting a tester of that. Wherever Leo is for your chart, let this go back because Sun and Mercury are also retrograded, opposing the Jupiter. So it's like let your subconscious bring up the issues at hand that you've probably been missing because you've been a Leo and take it in, right? What are the sensitive points in your chart right now that are not being seen? All the while, at the exact date of this situation, the moon is going to be squaring Uranus. And that square is a little bit uneasy. It's uncomfortable sometimes to be told that you're not perfect and best and number one. And also, with this uncomfortable feeling, you do get to not be that, right? That is a freedom. If you're not the perfect XYZ 24/7, you get to be another old Joe. This moon in Uranus kind of lets you remove yourself from that light and be with the shadow of yourself and allow you to be weird, allow you to be unconventional. The exaltation of the moon is in Taurus. So you could be your best self here, I think. You can go back into your childlike state, not the state of the spotlight, right? You don't have to be a prince after age 14. You could be the prince that was just a little boy or girl, right? Princess. So, moving on from that, same day, we also have Venus pretty close moving into Aquarius. Okay, I'm gonna be covering that. I'm giving a full monthly point of view on YouTube, and then I'll be doing individual coverings on TikTok. That's probably uh, more in depth for the signs. This is going to be covering it all with the whole chart in its aspect, right? So Venus is conjuncting Pluto. Boy, almost feels like a breakup. But Whenever Pluto conjuncts Venus or opposes or squares, it is a struggle for power and love, right? You have the core values of what it is that you want, and then you have quite literally the power scaling infinite evolution that is Pluto. And these two don't get along. I would never want to put them together unless it's like a niche chart. Like I'll look at charts and it's like, oh wow, you're like a glass cannon, or you're a rare Pokemon that's incarnated for this specific point of view of what you're going to do with life. But for most people, I look at Venus aspects of Pluto and I'm like, how will you battle this? Or how do you submit to it? Or the best, or how do you find a sense of equilibrium? Pluto ruling Scorpio, Venus ruling Taurus and Libra. Equilibrium to me is finding a way to create balance between power and constantly evolving. Sometimes Pluto has the upper hand, depending on the aspect. Sometimes Venus has the upper hand, right? It could be detrimental. But this conjunction in the sign of Aquarius that we know is going to be the counterculture, the freedom in your chart, look and see how you can utilize this to say, I'm moving into a new era of myself with Aquarius placements, with aspects to the fixed signs, whether it's Scorpio, Taurus, or Leo, or with just simply having Uranus aspecting in your chart and say, this is a new me, right? What if the day before, when Mars enters retrograde and the moon was kind of having a direct, well, it still has a square to Uranus, you tell yourself, okay, no more being this XYZ. I'm going to go back to being my child self. And then you use that to find a community or to find a way to evolve, to find a way to give yourself love, right? Those values that you have for yourself. It's a really big factor of that Venus Pluto conjunction. So, the very next day, because we're doing back to back, well, the same day, actually, just a few hours, we have Neptune and Pisces going direct. A whole lot of stuff going on here. It goes direct this day. I don't know the specific time. Oh, there we go. Close enough. All right. So 7 p.m., 7th of December, Neptune, planet of media, mythos, myth, is going to be going direct. What is it going direct around? Ironically, it's going to be going direct with the Cancer rising. I like this. I like this a lot. Why do you like this, Liv? Because if Neptune rules Pisces, but also Jupiter rules Pisces, right? Jupiter being in Gemini, retrograded, opposing Sun and Sag, and a Mercury retrograding. Pisces can come in here and say, hey, what is our bigger picture in relations to the fantasy? What is our bigger picture in relation to the spiritual practices of our day-to-day life? If this was like a car, if this chart was a vehicle, having Mars and Leo retrograded is like the paint suddenly starting to fade. Having Jupiter and Gemini retrograding the Mercury is like the dash kind of having a bunch of diagnostic codes that are popping up. But having Neptune and Pisces here is like, oh, but the car radio still works. Let's listen to some music. We're not going anywhere fast. So let's just chill, you know? Especially if you're on like the side of the road, instead of having a mental breakdown, enjoy the Aquarian moment and tell yourself, here on moving forward, I'm going to make sure life is a beautiful series of songs and music. You know, I'm going to enjoy that. It is, to me, a good direction as we move over into Aries. I like Neptune not being retrograded anymore. I really want it to be over with. I don't know about you guys, but I really want it to be over with. So the only way is through. So we just got to run through the delusion. And that's how you do it with the music, right? Whenever I see Aquarius and Scorpio heavy charts, I always think of depressed emo kid listening to a lot of music. So when I see Neptune in Pisces, and then I look to see that Jupiter is in Gemini retrograded, the whole idea of the car comes to play because you're going nowhere really quickly and you're taking in a lot. So good luck with that. Moving on, we have Mercury stationing direct on the 15th. Thank God, right? As Mercury stations direct, it's still going to be in Sagittarius. Oh, that's Pluto. That's not Mercury. Silly goose. Why is this not drawing? Okay, there we go. So as Mercury goes direct in the Sagittarius sign, you still have to remember that, yes, it feels better, but we're still not out of the heat. I would rather you start to make actions when we go back into Cancer than to do it in Leo while it's retrograded right now. Because Venus and Mars are going to be opposing each other during this period of time. And you're going to have a stronger, in my opinion, energy with being just your regular self and letting the image of what you need to be disassemble with this transit. But you'll definitely step in your own way if you let the Mercury and Sag make you feel like you have to execute now. At the same time, we're really close to Saturn and Jupiter squaring again. In the global point of view, that stage, we might see some new releases and news about things that have happened in the past, health wise. But this chart is still kind of just be enjoying to your own self. You know, when Mercury goes direct in Sag, my point of view would be, hey, let's really increase the abundance that we are looking for. Let's really dive into a wormhole of what we want, right? The action, the drive, the car is still stationed, it's still not moving, right? Those diagnostic codes are on there still. But let's say you have an OBD scanner, if you know anything about cards, and you're able to actually check what the codes are now because Mercury's direct. Well, you're probably going to do a Google search. You're not just going to get out the car and try to fix it there. You don't have anything yet, right? So my point of view here is that do a little bit more, maybe deep dive a little bit more into the rabbit hole, but don't take the actionable steps yet. You're going to be having a grand fire trine that is self sabotaging, but it can also be self renewing because you could just use this energy and say, instead of going and trying to run a race with just one leg, I can see the finish line of the race now and get there by preparing myself to use both legs, you know? So, what else is happening here? On this same day, a few hours before, we're going to be seeing that full moon in Gemini. Most definitely be covering that in a video. The full moon in Gemini is going to be at 24 degrees of Gemini, probably. And just before Mercury goes direct, you're getting ideas. Sun in Sag, moon in Gemini, after conjuncting the retrograded Gemini. Jupiter, it's a swarm of thoughts. It's a swarm of possibilities, right? This is also going to coincidentally square the Neptune in Pisces. Okay. All of the different bits of information that you were getting about the car or the different choices of music that you wanted to adhere to, how do they align with you, right? We're not making a choice yet, but it's kind of like when you use your phone, you're in the moment of using your phone, but the phone itself can have notifications popping up. You might be going through a browser tab, hopping through different sites all at the same time, but you're standing there on your phone. If you are multitasking, you're not paying attention to your surroundings. So for me, this energy, once again, if this video hasn't reiterated anything to you, it's not the action, it's the intellectual stimulus that you want to be going after, the intellectual planning, preparation. This full moon is, hey, at the start of the month, we had something that came up and it required you to want to build a sense of abundance, but it also required you to allow yourself to retreat. Now that we are here, what have you learned? Because as Mercury goes direct a few hours later, okay, share it, talk about it, experience it, or learn more. Maybe you don't know enough. Because following that full moon, we then move into Capricorn season. As we get into Capricorn season, it's really the 21st, you really have to set aside, to me, the pride, even more so, because now we only have the fire in Sag. Yes, the North Node is still there. Yes, Leo Mars, but I only see the fire in Sag. So it's like having a hot tempered mouth. Doesn't mean you're going to be saying mean things, but it's like not being able to hold it back. While at the same time, we're going straight into the heart of winter. You know, Venus and Mars are decoupled in their opposition, and Venus is moving to trine Jupiter in Gemini. And as you do that trine, and it comes closer and closer in contact with Lilith in Libra, and it creates a grand air trine, I want to focus on these two aspects first. And I look at it and say, I could use this as a way to create more community. Online communities, maybe a Facebook group, maybe a meetup virtually through Zoom or any other apps that would allow that, right? Creating a harmony in your own life that you're not going to self destruct because you're tunneling way too deep, but rather finding people that are like minded like you, that will yap and talk as much as you will, and then share that. And there's no better time to do that than Sun going into Capricorn. So that way, you don't have to go outside. You don't actually have to do something that's too difficult. And if anything, maybe this will let you entertain all of those conspiracy theories, right? Maybe it'll let you do that with the Juno squaring that Venus as well. You'll find people that really are into that as you are. You can create a sense of community to help you through the winter. Lastly, we finished the month off with a new moon in Capricorn. Not exactly sure of the degree. Well, it should be 9 actually. But this new moon in Capricorn is calm. It holds an idea going into the new year that we want to create a beautiful structure. The story goes that the new moon in Sag was about giving yourself a sense of abundance, right? That's a donut. But after creating that sense of abundance, after planning, this isn't going out of your way to start a business or going out of your way to um, go meet the people, but this is something as simple as, okay, let's see how much it costs. Let's see, I've learned about XYZ. Let me now learn about the actual foundation of it. That's Capricorn at its basics. We really want to make the astrology simple, not overdo it. Mars is getting almost direct, opposing Pluto and Aquarius. And consequently, we are not trying to take the action. If you've learned anything in this video, I just want to point out this is not the actionable time. Wait for spring. The first quarter of next year going into the second quarter are going to be so explosive, which is why I urge you to stay here with me present and just plan. You know, after the election, it's felt like the new year has already started, but it hasn't. Don't let everyone else pull you into that black hole of energy, of sides and XYZ. Really try to harness this. This is a nice new moon. These have been really nice new moons. Ever since the Libra new moons, I've loved these. Libra new moon was like, have fun for the last bit of time. Scorpio new moon was like, reflect, really let things shed. And then going into the Sag new moon, it's like, okay, how do we want to plan? How big can we go? How far can we go? We're not going there yet. Capricorn new moon is, what do we need? What are the funds? What are the actual policies that we have to put in place? Where do we have to sign up? What do we have to create structurally? What are the systems? So that when we start next year, we start to slowly let the horses out, see how it feels, and then we really get it started, right? It's going to be a lot. I will be tapping into the delusion of the nodes again as we get closer to the new year when they move into the 11th of January. Ultimately, this is a month of rest and reflection, and I hope you have a chance to do that. Do not feed into the haywire of everything around you, because the negative side of Mars in Leo is just overextending. It's trying to get a crowd of people to like you as they start throwing tomatoes at you. They already don't like you. Just get off stage. You know, there's many sides to interpret astrology. I always try to look at the side that is risk aware and a lot more peaceful to your life. So while you might be inclined to make drastic decisions, as the Mars Leo retrograde really rides the back of this entire month, just be mindful. It's just the last month of the year. It's another month at the start of the other year. You don't have to make drastic decisions now. You can just take some time to yourself. Anyway, my name is Liv. This has been Cabus Astrology. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.